Welcome to Newsbeacon, your trusted source for breaking headlines, global insights, and sharp analysis from around the world. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Across Moscow, a new and unsettling landmark dominates the cityscape. Endless lines of cars at gas stations, stretching for blocks in every direction. What was once a routine stop for fuel has now become a defining feature of daily life, a symbol of the uncertainty gripping the Russian capital. Drivers wait for hours, sometimes overnight, just to fill their tanks. Some bring pillows and blankets, turning their vehicles into makeshift bedrooms as they try to catch a few hours of sleep before dawn. The lucky ones might get fuel before sunrise, but for many, the wait stretches on, testing patience and resolve. Arguments flare, tempers fray, and the air is thick with exhaust and frustration. The tension is palpable as drivers jostle for position, worried that the pumps will run dry before their turn. The constant hum of idling engines mixes with raised voices, creating a soundtrack of anxiety and discontent. The daily routine now starts with a calculation: do I have enough fuel to get to work and back? Commuters check their gas gauges obsessively, planning every trip with care. Even simple errands are weighed against the risk of running out of fuel, adding a layer of stress to every decision. Social media buzzes with rumors of tanker trucks, sending desperate drivers racing across the city. Apps and chat groups light up with tips about which stations might have fuel, turning the search for gasoline into a frantic scavenger hunt. For many, the day revolves around these updates, as hope flickers with every new message. The simple act of buying gasoline has become a stressful ordeal, a daily reminder that something is deeply wrong. What used to be a mundane task now feels like a test of endurance, patience, and luck. The stress is visible on every face, etched into the lines of those waiting in the cold or heat. For many, the crisis is more than inconvenience. It's a symbol of a nation in trouble. The fuel shortage has become a talking point in every home and workplace, a constant source of worry that overshadows daily life. People shake their heads in disbelief, wondering how things could have changed so quickly. In other regions, the situation is even worse. Some cities have no fuel at all, and the long lines seen in Moscow are a luxury compared to the empty pumps and shuttered stations outside the capital. Rural towns are especially hard hit, with residents forced to ration what little fuel they have left, or abandon travel altogether. The crisis has exposed the fragility of Russia's supply chain and shattered the predictability of daily life. Empty shelves in convenience stores and disrupted deliveries are now common sights, as the ripple effects of the fuel shortage spread through every corner of society. People share stories in line, their voices a mix of anger and resignation. Some swap tips about where to find fuel, while others vent their frustrations or simply commiserate with neighbors. The sense of community is strong, but so is the shared sense of helplessness. The question is no longer when things will improve, but how much worse they might get. Each day brings new rumors, new uncertainties, and a growing sense that the crisis is far from over. Moscow's organized chaos is now the face of a country in crisis, a stark reminder that even the most basic routines can unravel overnight, leaving millions to wonder what tomorrow will bring. The root of this crisis isn't a simple supply chain issue, it's the war. Since summer 2025, Ukraine has escalated drone attacks on Russian oil refineries, crippling fuel production for both military and civilian use. Refineries in Ryazan, Volgograd, and Samara have been hit, slashing Russia's fuel output by up to 20% in weeks. Russia's air defenses, stretched thin, can't protect the vast infrastructure. The attacks peaked in August, just as demand soared for harvest and holidays, creating a perfect storm. For ordinary Russians, the war is no longer distant. It's at the pump, in every empty tank. The drone strikes are economic attacks, turning the war into a daily struggle for millions. The chaos in Moscow streets echoes the explosions at refineries far away. The Kremlin's response has been frantic but ineffective. A ban on gasoline exports was meant to boost domestic supply, but with refineries offline, there's simply not enough fuel to go around. Fuel is being redirected and state reserves tapped, but these are short-term fixes. Price controls distort the market, discouraging investment and fueling public distrust. State media downplays the crisis, blaming local officials or speculators, but the truth is visible everywhere. The government's mix of bans, logistical shuffling, and misleading statements reveals a leadership out of answers. The real cause, war and drone attacks, can't be hidden from the public any longer. Scarcity and price controls have spawned a thriving black market for gasoline. Desperate drivers pay up to $9 per gallon through illicit sellers, while official prices remain a fantasy. Even legal stations have hiked prices by over 30%, making fuel unaffordable for many. Those with money or connections can still get gas, but most are left waiting in endless lines or abandoning their cars. The black market deepens inequality and resentment, eroding any sense of shared sacrifice. Panic buying and hoarding have become common, creating fire hazards and worsening shortages. The scramble for fuel is a symptom of a system breaking down. Faith in the state's ability to provide basic necessities is evaporating. People are forced into risky, illegal measures just to keep moving. For Moscow's taxi drivers, the fuel crisis is not just a challenge, it's existential. Every day, thousands of drivers set out before dawn, hoping to earn enough to support their families. But now, the city's streets are filled with uncertainty and anxiety. Their cars, once symbols of independence and hard work, now sit idling for hours in endless gas lines, burning precious time and fuel instead of earning fares. The wait can stretch for hours, and every minute lost is money slipping away. With fuel prices soaring to record highs and fewer trips possible each day, many drivers have seen their income drop by 25% or more. For some, the losses are even steeper, threatening their ability to pay rent or buy groceries. Some drivers try to make up the difference by working longer hours, pushing themselves late into the night. Others consider quitting altogether, but in a slowing economy, options are few and far between. The stress is taking a toll on their health and families. Customers too are feeling the impact. They face higher fares and longer waits, making taxis a luxury that many can no longer afford. The city's rhythm is changing, as fewer cabs mean more frustration for everyone. Dmitry, a veteran driver with over 2 decades behind the wheel, sums it up. If I charge more, people can't pay. If I don't, I lose money. I'm trapped. His words echo the dilemma faced by thousands. The pressure is relentless. Many drivers feel isolated, caught between angry customers and the harsh reality of their shrinking paychecks. Some have turned to the black market, paying exorbitant prices for fuel just to stay on the road. It's a risky move, but for many, it's the only way to keep working. The crisis is pushing many to the brink, with no relief in sight. Exhaustion and frustration are now part of the daily routine. Taxi drivers are a microcosm of the working class, caught between a failing market and a government that seems unable or unwilling to help. Their struggle is a reflection of a much larger problem. Their faces tell the story of resilience, frustration, and hope that somehow things will get better. The human cost of the fuel shortage is written in every weary glance and every silent drive through Moscow's night. The fuel crisis is accelerating Russia's economic decline. GDP is shrinking, inflation is soaring, and a planned tax hike will only worsen the pain for ordinary families. Defense spending now eats up 41% of the federal budget, leaving little for healthcare, education, or infrastructure. The inability to protect and repair refineries is a direct result of these priorities. The budget deficit is ballooning, filled by tax hikes and draining wealth funds. For ordinary Russians, savings are eroding, wages lag behind prices, and mobility is restricted. Every sector that relies on transport, from food to construction, is suffering. The fuel shortage is not just a problem, it's a symptom of a country on a war footing, leaving civilians exposed. The crisis is a warning sign of deeper economic malaise. For years, the war in Ukraine was distant for most Russians. The fuel crisis has shattered that illusion, bringing the war home in the form of empty pumps and endless queues. The hardship is now personal missed doctor's appointments, canceled trips, and daily uncertainty. Conversations in gas lines are no longer just about fuel, they're about the cost of war. Ukrainian drones have exposed Russia's vulnerability, inflicting economic damage at a fraction of the cost of traditional warfare. The failure of air defenses undermines the Kremlin's narrative of control. Public patience is wearing thin as the crisis becomes impossible to ignore. The fuel shortage is a daily referendum on the war's true cost. The evidence is everywhere, no longer just a story on the news. The war has come home, not with tanks, but with the relentless grind of a society running on empty. The fuel shortage ripples through every part of Russian society, affecting both urban and rural areas alike. It's not just a matter of inconvenience, it's a crisis that touches every aspect of daily life. In rural regions, the timing is disastrous. Farmers fear crops will rot without diesel for harvest. The lack of fuel means that machinery sits idle, and the hard work of planting and tending to crops could go to waste. The entire supply chain is slowing. Trucks are stuck in lines, deliveries are missed, and costs are rising. This delay affects everything from food to essential goods, creating a ripple effect that impacts everyone. Small businesses struggle to operate, passing higher costs to consumers. Shops and cafes face dwindling supplies and rising expenses, making it hard to stay open. For families, budgets are stretched to the breaking point as prices for fuel, food, and goods climb. Parents worry about how to make ends meet, and the stress of financial strain is felt in every household. The crisis curtails freedoms, weekend trips, family visits, and daily routines are disrupted. The simple pleasures of life, like a family outing or a visit to a friend, become difficult or impossible. Communities form in gas lines, but so do suspicion and conflict, as fuel tourists from other regions add to the strain. The wait for fuel becomes a social event, but also a source of tension. The social fabric is fraying under constant competition for scarce resources. Neighbors who once helped each other now find themselves in conflict over limited supplies. The crisis is draining optimism and energy, one empty tank at a time. The sight of an empty fuel gauge becomes a symbol of the broader struggles facing the nation. The world is shrinking for ordinary people, their lives more confined and stressful. Public transportation becomes more crowded, and the sense of freedom once taken for granted is now a luxury. The fuel shortage is testing the resilience of Russian society. Communities are finding ways to support each other, showing that even in the toughest times, solidarity and cooperation can shine through. As winter approaches, the fuel crisis shows no sign of ending. Ukrainian drone attacks continue, and Russian air defenses remain ineffective. Government fixes are temporary, while inflation and economic slowdown threaten a recession. The Kremlin faces a stark choice: prioritize the war or protect the home front. Public patience is finite. A harsh winter could push it to the limit. The crisis has already undermined the government's promise of stability. If shortages worsen, rationing and unrest may follow. The long lines in Moscow are more than a fuel shortage. They're a warning of a cold, uncertain future.